Oh, hey, look what I found. That's me. I forgot to tell y'all that showed up. I actually forgot to ask YouTube for it. Just wanted to say a quick thank you, guys. The videos have been doing incredibly well over the last couple weeks specifically. But I couldn't get to that milestone, 100,000 subscribers, and get YouTube to send that to me without you guys liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with your friends. So just know that I appreciate it, whether it be you subscribed a week ago or 3 years ago. I appreciate it. The videos have been doing awesome lately, and I can't wait to keep it rolling. So let's go. Okay, so if you've been following my channel for any period of time, you probably knew what we were going to be talking about in today's video, and that is the recent Damian Lillard potential trade request news. We're going to be talking about the article and reports, specifically what it could mean for Dame, where he could potentially end up, and just kind of all the context around the situation. So let's go and get into it. Okay, quickly, I want to read you a couple of little parts of the article, the report from Chris Haynes of Yahoo that I want to highlight. We'll kind of talk about those and then move on. So it says, the enormous backlash from the Trailblazers process to hire a new coach and his concerns on whether a championship contender can be built have become factors that may push their franchise player Damian Lillard out the door. Lillard has remained loyal to Portland in large part due to the tremendous fan base, but over the last few days, he's seen some of those same fans attacking him on social media for a pending coaching hire that he played no part in. That coaching hire being Chauncey Billups. So quick context. We understand the whole championship contender aspect of this, right? It makes sense for Dame to be frustrated. He, as an individual player, certainly has the ability to win a title. The team itself has not done a good enough job of surrounding him with players to help him win a title. They've made a lot of mistakes, as a lot of front offices do, and the way the NBA works now is typically, if you make too many mistakes and you have a player the caliber of Damian Lillard, they're going to want to leave, and it seems like he's starting to lean towards that from a basketball perspective. But the article states that one of the things that has always kept Dame in Portland is the connection he feels to the team, to the franchise, and most specifically here, the fan base. He feels like the fans have invested so much in him, and they've been incredibly supportive of him, and that he owes them that same level of support on the court as well, and to not just ask out and leave and go to potentially a more successful franchise. The problem is, when the Trailblazers were looking for a new head coach, it makes total sense that they were going to ask Damian Lillard his opinion, right? It's the way the NBA works now. You have a superstar, he could ask to be traded tomorrow. You want to make sure that he's on board with the head coach that you're bringing in. Lillard said publicly when the head coaching hiring process kind of came about, he said he really liked Jason Kidd, and I believe there was a comment made about liking Chauncey Billups as well. Billups has now been hired as the Trailblazers head coach. Dame has said that he likes the hire, but some of the fans in Portland are not a fan of Billups because of some things that have happened in the past, in the late 90s, that Dame was not aware of, that I quite frankly was not aware of because I was 2 years old at the time. And the fans are upset that Lillard is publicly advocating for a coach that has some issues in his past. Now, granted, it seems a little bit odd that they're getting upset at the guy that doesn't actually make the hiring choice. Yeah, he can give suggestions. He can let the team know that he's on board with the hire. But it seems odd if you were a fan of that team to be getting upset at an individual player for who the team decided to hire as coach, no matter what level of input you think Dame may or may not have had. Ultimately, Damian Lillard is not hiring coaches. It's the front office and it's the executive of that team. So if you want to be mad at somebody for the new coach, be mad at them, not Dame. But Dame feels alienated now. He feels like he does not have that support of the fan base, or at least from a small percentage of them, that he felt before. Now, some people are just saying that this is a really convenient excuse for Dame to basically come up with a reason to leave, and that the main reason is that he just wants to go somewhere else and he wants to be playing on a better team and compete for a title. Regardless of his reasonings, I think this is a very legit report that does give some credence to the possibility that Damian Lillard could be traded soon, or could request to be traded soon, more likely, because as we've talked about in the past, the only way Dame does get traded from Portland is if he asks. Portland is not going to shop Damian Lillard unless he comes to them and says, I don't want to be here anymore. I'd like to be somewhere else. Please trade me. Up until that point, none of the Damian Lillard trade stuff matters until he actually asks. But this report, and more specifically who's reporting it, gives an indication that that could be the case, that this is how Dame is feeling. Because Chris Haynes and Damian Lillard is a very interesting player-media member relationship. And Chris Haynes has basically spoken for Lillard publicly in the past. And so if he's saying this, someone has to be telling him, right? That's why he can say league sources told Yahoo Sports. Someone has to be telling Chris Haynes this, whether it's Dame directly or someone around Dame. This has to be at least a little bit of how Dame is actually feeling, which again could eventually lead to a trade request. One thing I want to put in here before we get to the potential teams is let's just all get on the same page we're not going to be mad at Damian Lillard if he requests a trade, right? Like, this is a superstar era in which everybody has to leave. Everybody has to leave as soon as things get rough. And Dame, and to a certain extent, Bradley Beal, those are the two superstar guys that have remained loyal to their teams when their teams have not done enough to make sure that they should be staying loyal. I think Beal is going to ask out this offseason, and it looks like Dame might as well, but I have no issue with it for Dame whatsoever. He has done more than enough for Portland. He has stuck it out longer than pretty much any star in the league has, and he has continued to show loyalty publicly to this franchise, to this fan base. If he wants to change his mind on that, I personally am going to have no issue with it, right? And I don't think anybody else should, but ultimately it's y'all's opinion. Now, the trade context specifically is really interesting because typically when a star player does ask to be traded, they have the leverage to kind of choose where they want to go because they are an impending free agent. That is not the case for Damian Lillard or CJ McCollum, by the way. These guys are signed to multi-year, big number deals for the next handful of seasons. It's not like he can wait a year or two. He is signed long-term for a very long time for a lot of money. And so unless Portland is just incredibly motivated to do right by Damian Lillard and to send him to a team that he would like to go to and thus sacrifice some potential assets returning to the team, Dame does not have the power to dictate where he would like to go, because if he was an expiring contract and impending free agent, he could just tell a handful of teams interested in trading for him that he's not interested in re-signing there and that he would leave in the offseason, and then that really trims down the number of teams he could possibly go to. We've seen that with the James Harden situation where it basically came down to Philly or Brooklyn. We've seen that with Anthony Davis in the past where it basically just came down to the Lakers. Time after time, that is a tool that players have used as leverage to get to a situation they want to go to. Lillard does not have that leverage unless, as I said, the team just wants to do right by him, which wouldn't surprise me. But if you're limiting your options to 4 or 5 teams, then the amount of leverage that the team has is limited to get more assets because there's just not as many teams bidding. If half the league is bidding for Damian Lillard, that price is going to go up significantly. If it's 2 teams, maybe not so much, right? Now, in terms of the specifics of what teams he could go to, it's kind of a free-for-all at this point because, again, we're operating under the assumption that he can be traded anywhere, that he does not have the leverage of saying, I will not play for X team, right? So Denver is certainly a possibility. They've got Michael Porter Jr., they've got other assets, they have a team that is ready to win a title right now. The backcourt, whether it's with Jamal Murray or without, would be incredibly interesting alongside Nikola Jokic. That is an interesting destination, whatever you think of that potential backcourt combination. The Pelicans have a ton of assets. The Thunder have a ton of assets. I don't know if either of those teams are really ready to step up and make a huge move like this, but they do. The team that I really like here, though, is the New York Knicks. I want the Knicks to get a big-time guard that is putting up 50 in the Garden in playoff games. Like, that's what I want, because that would be such a cool storyline. It'd be so cool to see Madison Square Garden back at that level again, right? It was great in the postseason, but to see a high-level guard doing stuff like that would be awesome. That's my favorite Dame destination. Whether they have to give up RJ Barrett, whether they have to give up Julius Randle, whether they have to give up future picks, Mitchell Robinson, whatever the case may be, they can do that. And then they can also go out and sign some guys in free agency, whether it be this offseason or the following, and create a really, really cool team in New York. I think that's the team to keep an eye on. It's not the Lakers. Look at me in the eyes right now. It's not the Lakers. Kuzma, Talen Horton-Tucker in a second does not get you anything as it relates to Damian Lillard. It does not get you an asset from another team that you can then trade for Damian Lillard. He's not going to be a Laker unless Anthony Davis or LeBron James are involved in the trade, and they're not going to be. So if you're making a Lillard jersey swap right now, stop. It's not going to happen, okay? He's not going to the Lakers. There are a handful of other teams around the league he could possibly go to that do have assets. I think Boston would be an interesting situation, potentially with Jaylen Brown. And then you've got to take into account if Dame does request a trade, you're probably looking at a CJ trade as well. So then all these other dominoes fall. And again, the incredibly interesting aspect of this is, one, if he even requests the trade, but two, once he does, it's kind of unprecedented to see a guy of this talent level get traded with multiple years left on his contract and not have the ability to dictate the team that he wants to go to. And if Lillard knows that, then that might dictate his decision to potentially just stay in Portland. Because if he's looking at it, he's like, yeah, we're not winning a title in Portland, but at least we're a decent team. We're winning 45 games. Do I want to risk requesting a trade if it means that I end up in New Orleans, right? Or a situation that is not necessarily as conducive to winning as even Portland is. So it's not just, I'm going to request a trade and I'm guaranteed to go somewhere better. That's not the case with Dame, and that is the interesting aspect of this to take a look at if he does get traded or request a trade. I think that this is the biggest piece of evidence we've gotten that Damian Lillard would actually request a trade this offseason or otherwise. I don't know if it's actually going to happen, but we haven't really gotten any legit news to point us in that direction until now. This is incredibly significant, important, and critical to the future of Damian Lillard as a Portland Trailblazer. And of course, I'll continue to keep an eye on it. And yeah, we'll probably do some trade machine stuff on him coming up over the next couple of days as well. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like rating on it. Subscribe if you are new for more NBA videos every single day. You can check out more videos from me in the box on screen as well. My name is Tucker. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.